Hello and welcome to another Vlogmas video. I am super excited for today's video because I read so much in November. Like, I actually kind of can't believe how much I read in November, and December has been a very slow start to the month in terms of reading. I really haven't read a lot, but November I read 10 books. I think it's my strongest book reading month of the year. So if you haven't already, go grab yourself a heartwarming cup of tea, coffee, hot chocolate, grab a lovely cozy blanket, and let's get going. So before I get started, I wanted to show you this absolutely, I'm gonna have to put it down to spin it around, but on the front it says how heartwarming cups of tea, and then here it's got a lovely dog cat drawing, but it's Morgan Long. It's my favorite YouTuber. She came up with these mugs, so obviously I had to get one shipped to me. But yeah, let's get started. So the first 3 books are actually memoirs, like autobiographies, and what's crazy is all 10 books this month were either library loans, audiobooks, or read on my Kindle. So I actually don't have any physical copies to show you, but I'll make sure to put a thumbnail of the book cover so you can see what I'm talking about. But the first one was When Gavin Met Stacey and Everything in Between by Ruth Jones. I fully recommend listening to the audiobook of this because it's Ruth Jones and James Corden reading it, and it just, you feel like you're in the room with them. It feels like an extended podcast. And for those of you who don't know, Gavin and Stacey is such a comfort show for me. They've done, I think, 3 Christmas specials, last year being the last ever episode that they ever did, and it all wrapped up. And the book kind of talks about how it came to be, how it came to fruition, how they got the idea, how they got it greenlit, casting, characters, their friendship. And I mean, I just love this. It was so emotional to listen to, and there were parts where I was just laughing along with them, and it was just a great comfort read. So if you know anyone in your family who loved Gavin and Stacey, get them this for Christmas because it was just such a good read, and I can imagine opening it up on Christmas Day and blitzing through it over the in-between festive period. And then second was another memoir, but a very different read altogether, and that was Finding My Way by Malala Yousafzai. I think that's how you pronounce it, Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai. I think that's correct. Forgive me if not. But this, again, it was an audiobook, and because I never read her first book, and her first book is more about Pakistan and kind of the political tensions that were happening that led her to being shot by the Taliban. And Finding My Way is more about her her late teen years, going off to university, being in her young 20s, and being seen as this global icon, but in herself feeling very different and just feeling normal, and just her kind of trajectory through university. It was a really excellent read, and I really felt for her and all the pressures that she's obviously gone through, and how she felt like she constantly had to live up to these expectations of the world, just by this one action of being shot then put her in the global limelight. So it was a really interesting read, and it's so interesting to see how she wanted to keep her normal life, but at the same time she felt the responsibility to keep her philanthropy work going and charity work. So I really enjoyed that. It was a really good read. And then another completely different memoir. I feel like I've just been on a memoir train in November, and that was definitely helped by my Audible reading hours. I had a lot to get through, so I then went on to a reality TV memoir, and this was Bad Mormon, a memoir by Heather Gay. Heather is on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and she's very vocal about the LDS church and kind of unspoken things she brought to light, the expectations of women, and the oppression that they feel in the church, in the LDS community. It was just overall a really insightful read. I think I didn't know much about the Mormon church going into it, and obviously we're getting a perspective of somebody who's grown up in it, who's lived it, who's lived a very kind of sheltered life, and then coming out of it, she got divorced. You know, she had to find her own way to make money because she'd never had to do that before, and it was just very interesting. I think she's even though she's a Real Housewife, she's a good role model. Like, I really like her. I think she's a very witty, smart woman. And yeah, it was just a great read. Like, I love stuff like that. Like, I love learning about religion and just how, especially Mormonism, because I've done a lot of digging, and just it's one of the most newest religions, and yet it's still, I don't know, it's really hard to put into words, but I really enjoyed it. If you're a Real Housewives fan, if you love reality TV, or if you enjoy just learning about new religions, I think that is a great read. And then on a totally different strand, they were the 3 memoirs. I then read If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. Now, this had been doing the rounds on TikTok. I absolutely love this cover design. It speaks to me. I'm an autumn girl. I love autumn. And this was just, it was a 5-star read. It was one of my favourite reads of the year. We have a female main character who has recently lost her mum, recently got divorced, and she's sent to go look after her mum's B&B in this small town. And next door is a single dad with 2 daughters, and we have this kind of instant spark, instant friendship connection between them. He is bubbly, happy, he's the sunshine, and she's more of the grump, and she's very like uptight, likes things done a certain way. She's a high-flying career woman, and she just wants to get to grips with this inn and then leave and go back to the city. But obviously their connection strengthens, and I just love the dynamics between I'm not usually a fan of reading romances with divorced people and single parents, just because I don't relate. It's not where I am in life, so I just can't see myself in the characters. But this was just so sweet, and he was just adorable. It wasn't over the top romance, it was just great. And obviously there was a bit of spice, so if that's your thing as well, it's got that element. But I truly loved this book. It had everything I needed, everything I wanted. I loved it. I then read Cassandra Complex by Holly Smale. Now, this is a book that was recommended to me, and it really resonated with me. The character, she likes things done a certain way. She lives her life very much so to a routine, and one day she loses her job. She goes to find herself her usual comfort banana muffin from her local cafe that she goes to every day. They've run out, and her boyfriend dumps her. And from there we kind of get this, not Groundhog Day, but time travel element, in the sense of she can erase things that have happened and go back and redo it and relive it. So what we get is her trying to redo her relationship, re-say things how society would like her to say things, because she says things that people misinterpret, ends up, she looks like a weirdo, you know, all of these things, and society just doesn't understand her, they don't get her. I loved our female main character. She was so lovable, and the fact that it was just such a journey, and I don't want to spoil what happens, but we really go along with her on this self-discovery of trying to accept herself, and these very kind of funny moments happening, and she just comes, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to explain it, but it was really sweet and it really resonated with me. And then another different one, which I actually filmed myself starting in my Read With Me video, and that is The Sundown Motel with Simone St. James. Now, I know this won a Goodreads award, I want to say 2020 or 2021, for mystery and thriller. I liked it, don't get me wrong, it wasn't my fave. I didn't like the time elements and the supernatural elements as much. I just wanted it to be founded in reality, but I know that's Simone St. James's writing, so it's more just a preference than it is a critique. But basically what we have is this female main character who works the night shift at a motel, and it's the same place that her aunt went missing in, I want to say, the 70s or 80s, and that was the last job she ever had. And we're kind of taken on this journey of this serial killer running rampant, and our female main character trying to detect who it is, what's happened. But then we have the motel and these dead women being able to control what's going on in the motel through energies, and yeah, so I didn't enjoy that much. It was very much like the Shining vibes, in that the building came into its own, but I really liked obviously the mystery side of things, and it was definitely spooky. Like, I read it, you know, I'd read a couple during Halloween, and I'd been on that kind of kick, so it really kind of satiated that in me that I needed. So yeah, it was a good read. So if you're somebody that likes supernatural kind of sci-fi elements in their mystery thrillers, I think you'll like this one. I then read a lovely Christmas festive read, which was Joe Thomas's A Recipe for Christmas, and this was about a female main character who's worked in like a HR-y kind of job all her life, really not done career kind of growth, or, you know, she's just been very comfortable. And when the opportunity arrives with her very recent new fling partner to go to Switzerland, she jumps at the opportunity, and having left her job, they offer her to take up any course and they'll pay for it. So obviously, being in Switzerland, she decides to do a chocolate making course. And from there, she's kind of thrown in at the deep end. What she didn't know is that she was signing up for an advanced class of all these amazingly snobbish chocolatiers. And from there, we get her thrown into this challenge. And I love this. I love the kind of dynamic of her with her friends that we're introduced to at the start, and then kind of her finding her own family in Switzerland. I loved it, and I mean, the descriptions of the chocolate in this book were phenomenal. And when I got to the end, I read the kind of author's note at the end, and she kind of said how she actually did go to Switzerland and do all of these chocolate tours. And I mean, you could tell, like, I felt like the smell of chocolate was in the room with me, and I mean, it just made me want to eat so much chocolate. But it was the perfect Christmas read, and it's kind of what's led me now to want to just read loads of festive romances. So Joe Thomas, if you're looking for a seasonal romance, I feel like she is your author. And then I read a new release for this year, which was Paula Hawkins, who wrote The Girl on the Train. She released The Blue Hour. I was skeptical of this one because the back, like the blurb, didn't speak to me. Neither did the cover. They're all quite simple, and I feel like it doesn't give much away, and it didn't really give me much intrigue either. But I must say, the journey and the twists and the turns this took me on were incredible, and it left you suspecting everyone and not trusting anyone. and really getting like just frustrated at all of these characters. Like none of them seem to be truthful. So we have kind of this dilapidated, isolated home on an island, I think it's called Eris, where a renowned artist called Vanessa used to live. And when her husband like 20 years ago went missing, and now 20 years on, a museum is looking at one of her pieces, which is like a sculpture, and they discover that it's human bone. So obviously investigators come knocking, but Vanessa isn't there. Her friend Grace lives there now, and they're just trying to get to the bottom of whose this human bone is. And we're taking on a very kind of, because we have like different perspectives of the museum curators and Grace, and it like the premise isn't like massively interesting, but I think the kind of the human bone sculpture piece is what sets off this train of intrigue. And I found myself really getting into it and really submerged. I think the idea of just anything isolated in a thriller book, like I'm there for that, because I just love those kind of settings. I love descriptions of weather, especially when it's horrible. I think it just adds to the intensity. So I was really impressed with this one. I think because I went in with such low expectations, the fact that I enjoyed it so much, I think goes to show that it was a good book. I then read Be Right Back by Bill Wood, and this is a sequel to, oh my gosh, what is the first one called? I can't remember what the first one's called, but the first one I loved because it was like Scooby-Doo meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Scream. It was like a ragtag group of teens trying to figure out this kind of haunting that is going on in their local mansion where teens have gone and they've been murdered. And the sequel is them coming back from university and the past is out to get them. Secrets are emerging again. Somebody's on the loose murdering people. I really wanted to love the second one and I just couldn't. I felt like it was predictable about who the killer was. I guessed it from pretty much the first 50 pages. And the stakes didn't feel as high. I don't know if because we didn't have like the group coming together like we did in the first one, like they were already cemented. I just felt, I don't know, I just feel like I didn't connect with it. I felt like the writing wasn't as strong. It was still fun and I will probably still read if they do a third one, because it felt very like, if you like Maureen Johnson or Jennifer Lynn Barnes, you'll probably like these books, because they do give that nostalgia coziness, but it definitely wasn't my fave, I have to say, but still good. And then last, the 10th book of the month is Grey After Dark. Now, I read this because one of my other favourite YouTubers, Heather McClary, was reading this. Oh my goodness, this is a book that I stayed up late to read, and I don't stay up late to read a lot of the time. Like, I usually fall asleep reading. I don't keep going. Well, no, that's a lie. If I really love it, I will. So it's really only books I love that I keep going. This is one of them. I stayed up really late to finish this. So we have a like ex-Olympic athlete, like she did like the snow, I don't even know what it was doing, like winter Olympic-y sports, and she goes to work at like an off-grid snowy camp, and while out there she decides to go lake swimming, and before that she is warned about bears, take alarms, be careful. And while swimming in this lake she is surprised by two very disheveled wild men basically, who take her captive, and it's all about how she escapes. This was incredible. I mean, it had my jaw on the floor. Like, the terror I felt reading this and the disgust, like the author really paints this picture of how vile these men are, and you feel it crawling on your skin and you're just so rooting for her. And I really think this author is one that I'm gonna have to do a lot of backlist like catching up on, because this was like a seller. This was a good top tier book for me. Like the darkness, the griminess, it was incredible. It was excellent. It was all I wanted. Like if you're going away, if you've got some quiet time over the Christmas period and you want to pick up a really good thriller, this is for you. But yeah, that wraps up my very successful November. I'm still quite stunned that I managed to read 10 books, and I'm kind of annoyed at myself that I haven't had the same success this month, but I'm determined. So hopefully you'll see me tomorrow and we'll have started a lovely new book. Bye!